I think we will do solar fields and scrap and scrutiny today. Yeah, so the solar fields, it does a couple of interesting things. One is, as a location, it kind of really emphasizes the setting. We talk about Beacon as a tidally locked planet, and this kind of, this is a thing that can only exist on a tidally locked planet, right? So we wanted to give the sci-fi folks, just something to nerd out to. And we've actually had many questions about this, like what are these things, how do they work? And it's explained sort of in a very loose way so that if, you have to be a bit clever to really get it. But anyways, it's just a boring old solar field. Power towers and mirror clusters look fine. Generators are still running and not a cloud in sight. So this is thermal solar generation. How it works, they've actually built some plants like this on Earth. How it works is that this thing right here is basically an item heated by the sun, and these mirrors act as a giant magnifying glass that focuses the sun all on this one thing. And then there's either some, liquid metal or something that can be heated up and act as a heat reservoir in here to boil some water and power some steam turbines. And that's how this method of power generation works. And it's set up here, the sun isn't directly overhead in Centauri. It's at a bit of an angle. But that actually doesn't affect the efficiency of this type of power generation that much. The only thing that really matters is how much atmosphere the sun goes through. As long as land is free, you can just use more land for the mirrors. But yeah, this is a technology that when you build it on Earth, you literally need heliostat mirrors, which are mirrors that have motors on them to track the sun so that you can constantly be pointing the sunlight at the thermal tower, which is a really annoying technology because, you need a shit ton of mirrors. But in a tidally locked planet, you can build it without the motors on the mirrors. You just need regular old mirrors. They talk about the day-night cycles on Earth. Sounds like a huge pain in the ass. So where's the problem? Everything looks fine here. The thing is, the atmosphere is very thin over on Centauri. There's a very low amount of moisture in the air, for example. It's if they tried to do this at some of the other locations on the planet, there'd be too many clouds. Anyways, should we go check around back? Oh, here's Anya. We were able to locate the source of those gunbots, and surprise, surprise, they're coming from a structure. One of those fully automated mini factories from the war, and it just happens to be in the desert. And then we get a little explosion, and Logan goes, oh no, what the hell was that? Did another generator blow? And we've got company. And we're right into the mission. And here we are, we teach players Q. Of course, we had to do that eventually, and you get the Advocate. So what's the goal of this mission? The goal of this mission is, we want players to build up their economy to buy one big dude. Right, so if in the previous mission they didn't learn to econ hard, now is the time to learn to econ hard, and we've even given you an extra econ unit to help you do that. So you have to construct 3 Gilded Drones in the Advocate, and of course we give this optional objective as well. The reason the optional objective is there is because this mission is actually quite easy. We were looking at the difficulty level of this mission, and we really didn't want... some players take a really long time to get the Advocate. They don't buy it till turn 9, 10, 11. Because the enemy exostructure makes gunbot factories, the enemy's attack grows quadratically. So if you wait too long, you actually just get stomped. And we do want players to get stomped if they wait a super long time to build the Advocate, but we don't want it to be too brutal. In particular, some players don't understand econ storing, even though we explain it to them. And they think they need 25 drones to get the Advocate. And we don't want those players to lose. We want them to be able to get 25 drones, get the Advocate, and still have a chance to win the mission. So we had to make this mission fairly easy. And as a consequence, we decided to add an optional objective to really push people who want to be challenged by the game in a more interesting optimization direction. Why does the Advocate construct a wall? Like, basically, the Advocate is supposed to be this, like, super ultimate, like, best unit in Prismata ever type of thing. And we really want people to click it, because doing 6 damage versus 6 defense, like, the damage is way better. And we found that, like, when people realize, oh, it constructs a wall, like, they actually think it's amazing. They think the Advocate is, like, the sickest unit ever. And that's what we're going for. We want people to think the Advocate is really sick. Like, you know, oh, I get to build this, like, super huge robot with all these guns, and it makes walls. Like, what the fuck? Did I say attack grows quadratically? What I mean by that is that the enemy's amount of attack per turn grows quadratically as a function of the number of turns when they have an Exostructor, because the Exostructor is building Gunbot Forges, which are building Gunbots. So, you know, every 3 turns, the number of Gunbots constructed by the enemy grows by 1, right? So the first derivative of the enemy's attack per turn grows linearly as a function of turns. So the enemy's attack grows quadratically. You know, I'm sure you really wanted some calculus in your life today. Anyways, so we get this joke about, like, you know, you think it's going to be a dirty joke, but really it's just, oh, the Advocate can also pump out defense for itself. And let's see. There's a number of ways to complete this optional objective, but I think the most straightforward one is you just do this. You store a ton of gold and you buy the Advocate turn 5. I think maybe you have to buy the Advocate turn 5 in order to get this objective to work. But you don't have to buy this wall. There are ways to do it without buying the wall. Anyways, yeah, so we get the machine that pumps out evil robots can also pump out machines that pump out evil robots. So we have this building that, which builds this. I think we can just do this. Oh yeah, it's so perfect. And it shouldn't be too hard to breach the enemy defenses by turn 9 as long as we build enough steel splitters. Yeah, your economy grows exponentially, so even though the enemy's attack is growing quadratically, it's like not a big deal, right? So I think we are going to get through with quite a bit of damage to spare, actually. Yeah, we're 3 damage ahead. So, yeah, the optional objective isn't particularly difficult, but we did want to give players a little bit of an optimization challenge just in case they, you know, found things boring so far. Like, even in Mission 2, the main reason we provided an optional objective in Mission 2 is just because, like, players who are really keen and have played a lot of these games before, like, these missions are so easy for them. And we learned expensive units can often be bought earlier by storing large quantities of unspent gold. Nobody reads that tip. I don't know what to do about that. Maybe we should make it blink. Anyways. Yeah, the plant's power generation capacity is down. We're just trying to give a little bit of flavor about the universe without it being too long. Zenith gets priority if Centauri ever comes up short. That's just great. We'll lose power when the reservoirs run out. Anyways, we gotta go back to HQ. Anya's waiting for us. And then we get, you know, Logan. Oh, doesn't she speak super intelligently? You know, Logan's trying to, you know, restart this conversation with Suede about Anya. And Suede will have none of it. And he's just going to tell Logan to go stick his tongue in a meat grinder. We had so many versions of this line. We initially had, like, a very vulgar line here, and we ended up cutting it because people just thought it was too vulgar. You know, and then, you know, it looks like the mission's going to end, and then we pop Logan back in here for just a second where he's like, what the fuck, Suede? You told me to stick my tongue in a meat grinder? Yeah, this is a PG-13 game. We actually we looked at other games and we looked at the amount of swearing they got away with, and we sort of, we looked at Uncharted, which is, we don't do ESRB ratings or anything like that. We're a PC game, but Uncharted is an ESRB T for Teen rated game, and Nathan Drake in that game says shit quite a few times. He says crap all the time. He says asshole and damn it all the time, and he never says fuck. So we kind of decided that's probably the level of swearing we should go for. Not because we're trying to appease any ESRB rating folks, but just because we felt that that was appropriate and what our audience would expect. Stick your tongue in a meat grinder, but instead of tongue, it's, yeah, let's go copulate with a meat grinder. Anyways, so here, the Advocate is significantly more expensive, and it's still really good value. You still need to get it. And the order in which the enemy constructs things is quite a bit different. So now they're going to build the Gunbot Forge first, which is going to cause them to get a lot of Gunbots much, much more quickly. And we are going to have to try a lot harder to get this Advocate up. I'm trying to think of what we actually need to do here. I know we want to buy it on turn 6. I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, okay, so if we buy another engineer here, we'll be absolutely fine to get it on turn 6. We actually have a couple extra, which makes me think we should have bought that engineer sooner and then bought a drone. So let's go drone gilded here. An engine. Or maybe not that engine. We'll see. We'll see. No, we're one short if we buy that engine. Okay. Ooh, we're actually getting breached here. That kind of sucks. Okay, let's try and do a little better. Okay, so DDE is definitely right. You can actually go triple drone here, which grows your economy faster than going gilded, but I think it's wrong in this case. I think we definitely want the Blast Forge and the wall, right? You wish the Destructors had a counter on them so it would be more obvious what they make next turn. Yeah, you can kind of tell. Like, you can see that the Hourglass one is on the Tough Gunbot, so that came last time, so the next one is going to be the Gunbot Forge. If we do this, we're not going to have it in time, are we? Do double. Oh, we can get it. We're going to get breached again, though, if we do this. Let's just lose a Gilded Drone. Can we still win? This might be pretty brutal. That sucks. I think we got the opening wrong. Let's hold him back. Oh boy. Like, next turn we're going to slaughter a ton of Gunbots, but I think it might be too little, too late. Okay, let's restart. We gotta do better. Gotta do better. I'm gonna get stumped on my own mission. So we're definitely gonna wall. Because there's just too many enemies to not. Let's build one engine. Did I try this already? Just so that we can get a gilded here. 32. Okay, so now we can hold back 2 drones and not lose a gilded. Let's just wall here. Your solution didn't get turn 2 forge. I do believe that there's quite a variety of solutions to this mission. Let's see. We should be able to... Let's buy one less NG and then we can triple wall here. Gilded Drone is beautiful. It certainly works beautifully. so now we're getting through, which is good. Hold back the splitter seems correct here. If we knock it, we're down to 17, but getting breach for that is no fun. Feels bad, man. Okay, let's try again. Let's try again. You got your first wall pretty late. There is this. I wonder. Feels pretty awful, but maybe it's okay. But can we... We're gonna delay the advocate by a whole turn if we do this. I think this is not gonna work. We definitely need a turn 6 advocate. Now we could try the triple drone here. Maybe this is it. I think we probably want to switch to Gildeds at this point. Delaying advocate by a turn was good. I remember when we made this, I think it was possible to beat it both ways. I do think so. You think turn 7 advocate is better? Okay, let's try turn 7 advocate. Pre-nerf Vivid is OP. No, pre-nerf Vivid is very OP. We know that. We definitely know that. Are you pressing Shift D when buying drones? I might be. I'm not pressing Shift Advocate. Let's try this. Is this even... It seems bad, but maybe it's fine, because we can just absorb on it, right? And attack with it later. I don't know how many of those injuries I actually want. And the answer is basically that many. Okay, let's see if we get breached. Oh, we're getting breached by a lot, actually. Okay, so let's be less... Maybe just wall. Maybe drone is okay. Just trying to think if I can afford double blast towards wall. I can. Okay, so if we do that and then advocate, we're defending. Seems alright. Could I have done that last turn? No, I didn't have any NGs. Maybe should have built more NGs though. The thing is, I'm now in a position where I'm not even making progress because there's 4 gunbot forges making the gunbots. Jeez. I definitely need more offense. Okay, let's not buy this gilded drone. Let's just get these so that we can keep making these. How long ago was this mission made? This mission was made forever ago. Like, probably more than a year ago. See, I'm still not increasing my number of steel splitters, but next turn maybe I'll be able to take out quite a lot of gunbots. this is how we do it. We're breaking down the enemies. Next turn we'll get some walls, but it's okay. Yeah, this should be more than good enough. You think this was the toughest mission? Yeah. I'm not that sure. Like, one thing about this mission is basically once you get over that hump where you can breach the enemy and just start slaughtering like 7-8 gunbots a turn, you do make progress. You just have to get there. I actually think like maybe one of those lines that I restarted in might have just been a winning line, and I was forgetting the fact that the enemy doesn't make walls every turn. Even at a price of 30 blue, the Advocate would likely still be massively overpowered in competitive Prismata. This is true. Anyways, scrap and scrutiny time. So this mission has an interesting story. The mission after this, the Vile mission, was one that some players were having extreme difficulty with. And the reason was basically that they just didn't get Absorb. They were doing Absorb 0 every turn. They'd get attacked for 5, and they'd have, 2 walls and 2 engineers, and they'd defend wall, engineer, engineer. And when you do that for the whole mission, you lose so much value that, the difficulty of the mission goes up substantially. And we really wanted people to understand that proper defense is a way to gain more value in Prismata. So we added this mission. This mission is a filler insertion that was done just a couple of months before we launched it. We had such a difficulty. We spent years working on the first 3, 4, 5 missions. And when we got around to finally testing the Giselle mission and the Comnet mission, it was fairly late in the development process, and we realized, no, we still had this major problem with the Giselle mission, and we have to teach people Absorb. Where does the data about people playing these missions come from? We did playtesting with dozens and dozens of new players. Of course, most of our community is not new players, so those weren't the people we were doing playtesting with. We were doing playtesting with a lot of friends, family, playgroups, random people we found. People I know, other game developers. And Absorb is the biggest thing that separates strong players from weak players when they're first starting out. And we needed a mission to bring that to a level playing field so that we could create content with the difficulty that we wanted without abandoning players who didn't get Absorbed. Anyways, so the whole scenario, them being on a ride back to HQ, and it being just like a test given to Suede, or a practice mode, that was inserted at the last minute. The story used to not have this. They just went back to the HQ and met up with Anya. And so we needed a way to not really advance the plot and just kind of have this little inserted thing. So we came up with this idea that, it's a test scenario. It kind of introduces the idea of combat training, which is nice. And we get this more of a banter between Suede and Logan and Giselle. We actually wanted to give Giselle a bit more screen time before we kill her off in the next mission. So that there were many added benefits of being able to insert this additional narrative content in there, but it was literally just filler. This mission is basically the narrative portion of it is more or less filler. During the war, the Exostructors were on our side. We moved some other dialogue to this mission. We wanted them to be speculating about why they got attacked, and this dialogue used to be at the end of the Solar Fields mission, but now it's at the start of here. Could the Nightsiders have violated the peace treaty? Are you even capable of defending Centauri if they evade? So this is kind of the line that transitions to questioning Suede's competence. And, Logan tells him he's rusty, you should get caught up on your combat training, you should stick to pressing buttons. And then Giselle is, of course, going to suggest that Suede practice on a defense for dimwits. You know, and she's recommending a novice training guide, which Suede feels very insulted by. Somebody's asking, do bonus units and ranks still affect ticket rewards? No, they don't. Yeah, and so we have some jokes here about, oh, she has to go to this tropical ocean or whatever, the extra tropical ocean. Tell Logan to go find some nuclear waste to play with. Logan says, oh, check out your combat efficiency, and Suede, he just doesn't want to hear it. He's like, fine, I'll just do it, you assholes. Why doesn't the book title have a witty initialism? Because only you would get it. I mean, no, that's not true. I don't know, we just never came up with it. So anyways, yeah, this is the mission where we introduce Undo, which we felt was important because, like, you know, this is the mission where players screw up and they lose. And in particular for the optional objective, a lot of even new players who are just starting out, they really want to get this optional objective, so we want to give them the tools that they need to undo if necessary. And sort of, this is the first testing turn, and many players do this. Like, I would say probably more than half of new players do this. And then they realize that they've lost, and they're like, did I do something wrong? But I didn't even have any choices. What could I have done differently? Right? Like that literally is what happens to people. And then, you know, usually this happens, and they click revert, and then they realize, okay, it takes them right back to this turn, right? And this is the turn that they are only getting attacked for 2, and most players do it right on this turn. They click the wall, and they see the absorb 2. And then usually, you know, they do this, and then they clue in, oh wait, this is the turn where I could have done something different. They can do that and keep the wall. And, you know, and just to make sure they got it, we have Giselle reminding you what happened. You know, just so that if you just tried random things and got through, you are told why you got through. And it's because the wall heals up. You can absorb damage on it. And I hate this terminology, heal up instantly, but like we begrudgingly put it in there because it's what makes it click for some people. And we, like, the most important thing is that it clicks for people, you know. Because many players, like, Prismata was developed in a world where Hearthstone didn't exist yet. Like, Magic the Gathering was the card game. And in Magic the Gathering, like, you know, the units don't have life points. Like, you know, you would need, like, a stack of counters on every unit to represent their life if you were playing it on a tabletop, and you just can't do that. And once you move to computer games from tabletop card games, you have the option of actually tracking the life total of every unit, which is what Hearthstone does. And now it's what people expect. And the fact that the default in Prismata is not fragile units but durable units actually, like, is confusing to people and is unusual for people. So we explain it as, oh, they heal up instantly, even though that's, you know, that's not really how it works. But it's what causes some people to get it. And that was added after, like, so much testing and trying to figure out what, you know, what got new users through this mission and to really understand Absorb. And yeah, people, you know, that thing on the screen that says Absorb 2 that slowly moves up, that was added late in the development process. We used to not have that. It definitely helps, but still, some players just see it a million times and don't really understand what it is or why it's important. Anyways, so we're on to phase 2, and this is the question where we say, like, you know, you gotta absorb as much as possible. Okay, absorb is super good. Defend in the best possible order. And some players, they just instantly get it. They go, okay, absorb 2. Many players don't. They do this, they lose. And they're forced to come back to this turn and read this tip. And this clue is sort of like, you know, absorb as much as possible, defend in the right order. And they'll eventually get it because there's not that many options here, right? Like, you know, you can do that, that's bad. You can do that, that's bad. And people do understand that the white units with the skull on them are the units that die. So they realize, oh, by doing this, the wall doesn't die, the engineers die, and therefore I can just only lose 4 engineers instead of losing 6. And, like, you know, this isn't a situation where players have to, like, ask the internet for help or something like that. Like, they do eventually figure it out. They go back and they get it. You want an option so that you don't get the absorb and the wasted text. Some people have asked us about that, but honestly, like, we think that it doesn't hurt. You know, and the only players who have ever requested that are players who were around when that wasn't in the game. And especially for streamers, like, we all want them to use that. Like, we want people who are watching a stream to see that text. The title of the option should be "I'm a shit player." Oh, Alex. So this is the first section where I think if you screw up, you will lose a Hellhound. And, you know, many players actually do screw up one of those turns. If you lose an extra engineer, then it's kind of like... I think if you just lose this one engineer, then you'll get breached for one next turn because you won't have the engineer here. And you lose like 1 to 2 Hellhounds. And so many players do actually have trouble there. Like, I've had people question me, like, do players actually screw that up? Like, why is the keep all your Hellhounds alive optional objective even in this mission? Like, who would mess up that? And no, surprisingly, like, most players, the vast majority, I would say 80% plus, do not get the optional objective on this mission their first time through. Anyway, so Suede's talking about the academy, the final challenge, and you know, this line, ugh, we had so many ideas about this line, and we settled on the "Go lick a turd popsicle," which it seems to get very good reactions in Twitch chats, so I'm quite happy with it. But yeah. And then of course, like, we have to have a response to that. And of course, Logan says, you know, it's a bit ridiculous, even for you. So we learn a little bit more about Suede's personality, that, you know, he sometimes says things that are a little bit offside. And now you get some defense with Energy Matrix. And again, it's not hard to do it perfectly, but many new players don't. You know, they often will lose, like, you know, all of these units. One thing that's very common actually is with 13, players will do this. Wait, hold on. No, with 13, you're supposed to do this. What many players do is they'll do that, or like, they'll do that. They sometimes throw away all their granularity on the first turn. That's actually very common. But you want that engineer around so that you can defend well on this turn and then not get breached on the next turn. Because if you lose the energy matrix here, then the one gun bob will kill one hellhound. And some people get stuck on that and they're like, oh, I'm losing one hellhound, why? And then they go back and realize, oh, okay. You just have to absorb 2 every turn. Suede swears like a 9-year-old. You didn't lose a single hellhound. Well done. Yeah, that of course, that text is generated based on your performance in the mission. She recommends more defense for dimwits. And Suede, of course, is gonna insult Giselle. How much do you weigh? 48 kilograms, sir. And what's the market price of 48 kilograms of scrap metal? And never mind, looks like we're back. Yes, and of course absorb 4 in the case of the last section, not absorb 2. Okay, so let's do the expert challenge on scrap and scrutiny, and then I'm going to wrap up the stream. Let's see how this goes. So, you know, the first challenge in this expert is basically, you know, this one counterintuitive thing about defense, which is sometimes you actually want to absorb less. And the reason, of course, is because we have 3 attack and our opponents are going to attack us for 0 mod 3 every time. So we absolutely have to do that if we want to not lose a hellhound. And in fact, not lose the entire challenge. What are the other text options when you do lose hellhounds? Basically, she just says, oh, you lost a hellhound. Like, it's not very interesting, I promise. And so in creating the later phases of this challenge, there's only so much interesting stuff you can do with just, like, how do you order your blockers. So we needed to add something else, and it's the, you know, purchasing engineers and walls. And in fact, like, when Giselle says, oh, now I recommend more defense for Dimwits, building the right defenders at the right time. That's kind of what this is, sort of. And so here you have to only build one engineer, because if you build two, you won't be able to afford this wall. That's kind of the trick to the first phase, which is not hard. And here you kind of just do whatever. How much do you weigh? 48 kilograms is mass, not weight. Yeah, but you, like, even in the future, I think, asking Giselle, like, Giselle, what's your mass? I think that our audience wouldn't necessarily jive with that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's fine. But we always thought how much do you weigh seemed more sensible, standard. I'm doing this okay, right? I'm really not paying attention. I'm kind of just autopiloting. The second section is not hard. Basically, the fourth one is the difficult one, and the other ones are kind of just tutorials for it. And this. I want to talk about this for a while, because this particular challenge 4 in Scrap and Scrutiny, is like, well, let me put it this way. You would think that Prismata, with just Engineer and Wall, and like you have some Gilded and Hellhounds, you would think that this is something that's so easy to solve and formulaic that, you know, you could just like write out a formula for what the optimal play is. And, you know, to some extent that's true, but this challenge 4 of Scrap and Scrutiny illustrates one situation where you have to do a really non-trivial thing to win. And in fact, when we discovered this in Prismata, we were actually really shocked and blown away at the fact that this type of subtlety would exist in sort of a mini-game of Prismata that was so miniature and minimalist. And in fact, Challenge 4 in Scrap and Scrutiny stumps a ton of people. Like, a ton of people, you know. So many people get to this stage and they realize, oh no, I needed to buy another engineer on the previous turn. And they go, okay, well, I'll cancel this engineer so that I have enough to buy double wall. And, you know, that's fine, so we get here. But then they realize, oh no, the same thing happened. I have 4 gold and I need, like, 2 engineers. And so suddenly, you're in this situation where you just need 1 more gold. And in fact, you know, this engineer here, we don't need it. Right? If we could sell this engineer right now for 2 more gold and buy another wall, we would actually love to do that. But the problem is we never bought any engineers. Like, these 4 engineers are just the 4 engineers that have been there the whole time. So the problem is, you know, I can't unbuy this engineer because I never bought it. So how do I get 1 more gold when I can't? Well, I mean, you know, what if I just had 2 more engineers? That would work too if I had 2 engineers here instead of the 4 gold. But the problem is the engineers aren't prompt. So somehow I need to be like buying walls on this turn instead and losing this engineer in an earlier turn, right? So, you know, thus arrives this kind of perplexing puzzle of, excuse me, of how do I like buy 2 engineers earlier? And the answer is, well, you just do it, but not then. You have to buy none of them, right? I think, I'm trying to remember the actual ordering. Like, I think you can actually just buy nothing on the first turn. Is that true? I don't remember. I think you can just do... You just go double NG here? Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. Because then you can go wall, wall, and wall, wall. So yeah, first turn you just buy double NG. And then... Oh, you don't have enough. Buy EE first turn, right? That's what I just did. Yeah, it's just EE instead of wall when wall would over defend. Like that. And it's like, you know, it's not really a hard trick, but it's a trick that even veteran Prismata players, like, it doesn't come up in games, or if it does, it's like so obscure that you would never really see it. So it's a trick that a lot of people don't know, and even me, right? Like, I was confused. Like, I know how to do this, but I don't remember the order. Like, it trips people up, and we've had more questions, more people say, I can't do this section, it's impossible, than just about any other section in the expert challenges. And like, when we discovered this little trick, we were actually blown away ourselves that something like, you know, a miniature version of Prismata that had so few units and so few available options could still be so challenging and have such an interesting solution. You know, and that's kind of a property of Prismata. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. As soon as you think you understand everything about Prismata, you discover something new that just completely throws you for a loop. You know, that's Prismata right there. Anyways, yeah, even though walls are more cost-effective than engineers, there are many situations where engineers are a superior defensive choice. That happens. Anyways, I think that's going to be all for the developer commentary today. I will do the last 3 missions at some point in the next week or two. Chapter 2, everybody's asking when it's going to be ready. We are waiting for some art that still needs to go into the game. Like a few little pieces of unit art, one background, and we're still finishing up one of the characters. The dialogue we're still kind of doing a few things with, and we're going to do a round of playtesting. You know, so I would estimate a week and a half to 2 weeks, but definitely by the end of the month. We said April, it will be April. You know, we're more concerned about getting it right and getting it perfect than we are about delays on the order of a week or 2. But it should be April, almost certainly April, unless something terrible happens with one of our artists. Anyways, that's all for today. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us, and I will see you in the next one. And that was the fake outro for YouTube. I will stay and hang out with you guys a little bit longer if you